Hi, my name is Amanda, Amanda Modern to be specific, and I am the owner and founder of Modern Moksha Designs and Publishing. And my vision with my company is to help people create inner peace, self-compassion, and a sense of belonging in a creative community. And the way I do that in terms of showing examples are through my paintings, and there are some of them on the wall, and helping people to have these creative works in their own home so that when they look at them, they think of their own inner peace or their own self-compassion. But also at the same time, I remember a discussion a while back, and it was some friends of mine on this self-development group based in Vienna, and we were talking about what three words would represent you on your gravestone. And so we all thought about it for a moment. And so for me, it was, and of course my tombstone would have to be a little bit bigger for all of my words. But it came up to being inner peace, self-compassion, and a sense of belonging. And actually I would add in a creative community, but sense of belonging, if that was the word limit, it would have to be, those three pieces. And, and it's really just like, what are the words that represent you, or what are the words that, that you want, people to remember you by? She had inner peace, or she had self-compassion. She exemplified a sense of belonging, and she shared that within her communities. Or with people she met, or helped other people find their inner peace and self-compassion. And that it was really a profound discussion, and maybe it's something that you think about doing with your friends, or maybe even with colleagues, at work. I mean, who knows? It could really be any community. It doesn't have to be a creative community. But that was a discussion that was pretty profound for me. And later, as I was working with my mentor, I also, thought about how could I incorporate this into a business, and I put it on my website as my vision, and how I want to create inner peace and self-compassion, and a sense of belonging in a creative community. One of the reasons, I started painting again. I guess it was somewhere in the pandemic, and for me it was art therapy, and it was just more, it felt so good to be painting, and I could be curious on the canvas. And I don't have any images to share at this moment, but at my website you can see some of the things I was doing. So for example, I was curious about rock art, which I had seen in Utah, specifically in St. George. I had gone to a resort in the area, and one of the trips was to go with an archaeologist and see some of the rock art in the local area. And thinking about rock art were ways of telling stories from 64,000 years ago, and I don't know specifically in Utah if that's the date range. But I also was reading a book called Founder Brand, Turn Your Story and into Your Competitive Advantage. And I was actually just reading this today. And, in the text that I was reading, it's about, how humans have been telling stories for forever. And, before written language, there were paintings. And then with paintings, really before that, came rock art. And I thought about that this morning, because I was thinking, when I do a painting, there is usually some idea that I have, or there's something that I'm trying to create, or sometimes it's just a matter of I am stressed out and I just need to paint, and I don't even care what colors, or it's just all in the moment. It all happens in the moments, and I tend to really like brilliant colors. But at the same time, I do some things that are more subdued, and I take an idea and I make it into, I don't know, just whatever it comes. I don't necessarily know what the outcome is going to be. Right now I'm working on a painting where it's based on a watercolor that I had painted in Venice, but the painting wasn't exactly the true story from what I was seeing in Venice. In Venice there were many buildings, but in the painting that I did, it was just a few buildings. And so I did that, and I also kind of put the landscape, or rather the horizon line, more at a slanted one rather than kind of straight across. So with as we create fiction, for example, or stories that we make up, we can change the details a little bit. We keep some truth, but we change the story a little bit, and that's kind of the same thing that I do with my paintings, where I might expand on a technique, or I might focus in on one area, say, of the buildings in Venice that I was painting, and just do something special with that, or make it a slightly different perspective. Instead of looking straight on, maybe you're looking straight on, but the sun is hitting it in a certain way where it changes the story. And stories for me have been important in my life, because, for example, when my father had died, I had a lot of grief inside, and there were a lot of things to do after his death, taking care of selling his house and all of these things. And of course I did have help, but at the same time, my escapism was reading stories, and so I was reading fiction. There are a couple writers that I like, and of course now everything's like escaping me here, as I'm live, but I don't like to do things scripted, so we're just going to have to go with it. Jumpha Lahiri is one of my favorites, and there's another writer. I hope that she'll come to my mind. She's a creative writing teacher at Case Western Reserve, and she was previously a journalist, but I just can't think of her name, and I can almost see her face. She's written several books, but she's written some short stories. She's written a lot of fiction, and anyway, the result of that story, and why I'm telling you that, is that months later, after my father had passed, I decided, because I'm a sales rep, and because Case Western Reserve actually was in my territory, but I wasn't dealing with creative writing departments. It was more history, political science areas. I found her contact information from her website, and I wrote her a letter. And I am someone who likes to write letters. So I found a nice card, I wrote her a letter, and I told her that the story that she had written really helped me, as I was dealing with my father's death and the grief and everything, that it really helped me to just have another place to focus, and just the characters. I really felt like I latched onto the characters and the stories she was telling, and it was just a relief for me. I guess, you can call it escapism if you want, or you just can call it, a love of reading, for that matter. But it felt good to me, that I sent her a letter, and I did get a response back from her, and I could tell, that she was truly touched that, that I did take the time to, write her a letter. But also, as creators, it feels good, knowing that you touch someone with the work that you create, whether it's art or whether it's writing or sculpture, whatever it is, it feels good, to know that you've touched somebody else in that way. Because for me, art and writing, it comes from the heart. And for me, it's about sharing my heart with other people, because, for me, it feels so good inside. Why not share that love? So the last little gem I want to leave you with is, I read a lot of articles all the time, and things on LinkedIn, things on Indeed, and just other articles that kind of come to me, whether it's through YouTube or through a self-development group of evening meetings that I'm on through a group based in Vienna. But the point is, I stumbled across something from Jack Canfield, and he's the guy who's the Chicken Soup stories man and author. And I don't remember when it was, maybe 2005 or so, there was a seminar in Boston, and it was related to his book, Success Principles, Getting from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And it was a weekend, and you know, who doesn't want to go to Boston? So I had a direct flight to Boston, and I stayed at a hotel nearby, or maybe I stayed on points with Marriott or Hilton or something, and then I also paid for like this VIP table. So at that time I hadn't finished my novel. In fact, I was in the very early stages of writing my novel. And you had a question, if you were at the VIP table, you had a chance, and Jack Canfield was there, and it was like a lunch sort of thing. And there you had a chance to actually ask a direct question. And the question that I asked him was, if I wanted to publish, like what was the best way to do it? And he had said, find a literary agent, because they will, they know the market best, So, and actually I self-published, so I didn't, in fact, take him up on his advice, but, Jack Canfield and, the messages that he shared that weekend, they made a difference for me. They made an impact for me. Nobody, my company didn't pay for me to go to this seminar. I just had that curiosity, to learn. And, I call myself a lifelong learner. And I think people, things, whatever, they come into our life, and, we have the option to say yes, and just kind of step past that fear. And I can tell you, I know about fear. I've had plenty of it, and I've made a lot of decisions based on fear rather than from love, from my heart. The point is, of all of this story is, I came across a Jack Canfield YouTube video, and it was an interview with someone. Someone was interviewing him, and of course, you remember only so many things from something that you hear, something you're listening to, or something you read, or in a meeting. And the nugget that came back for me was, every day, look in the mirror and say to yourself, so I would say to myself, I love you, Amanda. And another thing was, he said, go through all of your accomplishments through the day and say, I'm proud of you for, and I like to write things down first. So I usually write it down, and then it helps me kind of be able to say it. So like yesterday, I wrote, I'm proud of you for writing 2 cover letters, and, submitting the applications. And I'm proud of you for finishing the load of laundry. I'm proud of you for unloading the dishwasher. And I know, like, as I'm telling you these things, they sound like, well, that's not very impressive. And, maybe it's not, but those were the things that I accomplished for that day. And I think that the point is, it's not something that has to be impressive. It's the point of giving yourself that self-worth. By acknowledging it, and at the same time, looking in the mirror and, giving yourself that, that satisfaction. Like, you might be able to easily say how you're so proud of a friend or a family member of, something that they did, but at the same time, if we're going to share that compassion for others, we have to feel the self-compassion. Well, we have to feel the compassion ourselves. And so in ways of doing that are practices like these, where, we do things that, we're proud of accomplishing certain things, or we're just, for example, like tonight, I will probably say, I'm proud of you for, being vulnerable and talking about these things and spreading my message, and that was the other thing that I took from the Jack Canfield video was that, I don't remember exactly what the interview asked him, but he just said, if you knew something that was going to make people feel happy, wouldn't you want to spread that message around to the world? And I looked at him and I saw, like, in his background, like tons of books on bookshelves, which of course for me is a wonderful thing, because I also have my master's in library and information science. So when I see books, I'm a happy camper for sure. But, he just said, if you had that gem that you could share with the world about how they can be happy or how they can pursue their dreams, wouldn't you just share it, And I just, he was very humble about it. And, and I like that. And just in terms of my business, I do want to help people find their inner peace and self-compassion, and a sense of belonging. Not just in the creative world, but in any world. And why not share it? So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or comments, please do list them below. Thanks.